Hello,
Hello, everyone. Hello, Miruna.
everyone. Hello, my dearest Macy.
Amazing. We are following up on our one of our very favorite topic, the ego.
Yes,
And we spoke the episode before the previous episode about what is the ego according to our definition. And last episode we talked about the roots of the ego. What makes an ego? Where does it come from? We brushed over about fears and the self identity of the ego. And today I'm going to let Miruna introduce us about our subject of the episode today, where I think, let me know if that was the case, we would talk more about how does it manifest,
yes,
right?
yes. How does it manifest? Yeah, yeah. We wanted to talk more concretely on how it manifests into actual thought, actual behavior. We're going to give some examples. Um, I thought to start with judgment because it's such a obvious trait of the ego. There always has to be judgment, and maybe I would love to ask you about the difference between discernment and judgment for you, because some it's
Mm-hmm.
either like judgment is either judged to be negative at all times, but since everything has a opposite polarity, if it's discernment, if I discern on a value of something, suddenly it's very helpful. So yeah, well, let's start with judgment if you want.
Yeah, I love this. And you said an evident trait of the ego, a manifested
Yeah,
way. I love it.
yeah,
I love it. Um, it's very omnipresent when you, whether you talk about societal subjects, whether you talk about small talks with your coworkers, your friends, or your family. Very often, if you pay attention, there will be judgment. And we included do sometimes fall into this pattern, right? And for me, judgment is coming from a place of positionality, right? And we talked about the self identity in the ego place. So you judging whether something is good or bad, right? You're judging something whether, well, they should know better or do that better, or wow, I cannot believe they did that. How horrible. What a terrible person this person is. Or we can judge, oh, have you seen this person is overweight? How does she carry this person out? Or you can say, oh, have you seen this person, how they dress up? How, they can give an image. So I'm giving really, examples that you can hear often in everyday life. Or this bus is like that, qualities. So it's often a
yes,
qualitative um, description of what is good and bad, what should be better, what's not, superior, inferior as well. And
yeah,
it's positionality. So often it can be, I know better, or I am more intelligent, or I do that. So this person is lower on this sense. Or sometimes it's the opposite way where you don't feel worthy enough and you say, oh, I'm not as smart or intelligent as this person, or I wish I would be more that. You're self-judging, right? So judgment can come towards different kind of directions and different positionalities. Whereas for me, discernments come from a place of alignment and inner peace. So you're not as attached, you're not attached in the perfect ideal. You're not
yeah,
attached to the outcomes and the positionality. You see what is, and people who cannot discern might think it's a form of judgment, which I understand where they're coming from because you're like, this is not the truth, or this is not serving me right now in my life, or
hmm,
this friendship or this person is not aligning with me in my life, right? So if you want to talk about the details of the words, you can see it as a form of judgment. But at the end of the day, for me, discernment is coming from a place of alignment, of inner peace, and intuition. So you're not attached, you're feeling neutral about whatever you claim. And whether the truth you say or whatever you claim is going against your own beliefs or against your ego identity, or is going along with it, you are not minding that. It is what it is at that point. And I know it's very difficult to dissociate the body, the ego identity, and the spirit being in us, right? And that's the ultimate challenge. I think this is why we're having all these episodes and all this podcast, is this constant beautiful polarity.
Yeah, yeah.
So I will keep it like that, as simple as I can right now, regarding the
I
two
love
concepts
it.
you said.
I love it. I love it. You said polarity, and the first judgment that we spoke about is has a negative polarity at all times, right? So I judge everything to be bad, be it the other or myself, be it that they are overweight. I judge that there is a weight. I have a cube. Maybe it's thin, or maybe it's lean, or maybe it's whatever it is, right? But for sure, I know that that's not good. Whereas I can actually discern that I prefer to be lean because I feel better in my body, but I don't have to judge. I don't have to have a negative charge that it's bad to be fat, right? So it's like, but there is always a spectrum. Like if you look at it, we all have our preferences. We all have this middle way. And I love how you said it, you know, you bring it back to yourself, you bring it back to neutrality, but neutrality is a positioning. So let's say this is not bad, horrible, and this is not the best, which is better than, but in the middle, I have a preference, and that might be lean. I'm just giving an example, like let's say thin and then fat. But everybody has a preference. If you really ask them in their souls, in their intuition, they're gonna say, I actually feel for myself that this is my ideal weight because this is how I feel the leanest and the lightest and the happiest. And but then it's very intrinsic. It's very whole. So it's like, but I'm not saying fat people are horrible or like they shouldn't be fat, right? So it's as if we let go, or, and I'm not saying that I should be thin, because we see that too in the opposite spectrum, anorexia. And actually I without knowing, I was anorexic by the age of 18. I have a photo to prove it. Oh my god. Yeah, I just stopped eating because I judged that it's good, or no, it's the best to be thin. And I had a goal in mind, and you know, when I put a goal, I'm really like driven. I'm like, let's go, 53 kilos, and before the prom. And so that's the only time in my life that I wore a size 0, and I didn't even know, again, it exists. I just stopped eating. Yeah. And then later I found out it's anorexia. So I judged that it's better. So being fat was very bad. Lean was not enough. Okay, I wasn't looking for my own discerning, weight. I just went by, let's go, be the thinnest, like a skeleton. So I could just count my. So I guess this is a great example of judgment, either being in a apparent positive and negative, but actually it's just unbalanced. It's as if I notice somebody being interested in cars and I have no interest in cars, I don't have to say that they're just horrible, or look at this person, just they have only interest in cars. How come they don't interest themselves in spirituality? Because that's so much better. But in the same time, I am not interested in cars. That's okay. So I don't need to make a judgment call on them as if you were saying somebody or something has to be better and somebody or something has to be worse. But in fact, and that is judgment of the ego. So you have to make somebody or something better. You have to make somebody or something worse. Be it yourself. It doesn't care if it's I'm judging you or I'm judging myself. It's the same thing. I'm still judging, right? Because so yeah, it's so easy to catch it. Unless you think that your judgment call
is right.
So it's not easy, and I lived that many times.
I know,
I don't know about you, but I lived that many times.
girl.
do you know that moment where you don't know that your standard of value is not the way? Like I just got slapped so many times with
Yeah,
that because I
that's
thought, of course, like you don't see your own standard,
yeah,
and instead of just acknowledging your value, which is neutral, you're still gonna call this is
crazy. Yeah,
bad. This is word. No, this is better. My way is better than your way. Instead
yeah,
of saying this way is what works for me.
yeah.
Your way is another way. But don't we all have that?
Oh, girl, and that's why I feel like our next episode is gonna be so perfect, where we're gonna touch base with how do we carry on with ego, right? It does serve a purpose, and how do we actually marry and harmonize with that? Because guys, we are so aware and we acknowledge that it is present, omnipresent. We'll talk probably about the spiritual meaning of all of this, or the source of it all, but it is quite, attached from the mind and the way you perceive the world, the physicality of things. So yes, I agree. I have been myself, and until today, sometimes I catch myself up. Right, guys?
Yeah,
We're not perfect. It's just a
and we're
question of
human.
just making this continuous choice to become aware. We're catching ourselves up. Sometimes we're gonna fall up, because of how we grew up, the programming that we still do programming, or we see ourselves judging in different aspects of our life, spiritually, religiously, none out of it as well, work,
Yeah,
different
money, no
spheres,
money, less
money,
money.
family, what we should be doing, what should not. So I love what you said, and maybe to finish up on this first manifestation of the ego, because I love that, is the question you could ask yourself is that, am I judging something better or worse than something else? Am I in a positionality, right? And then
Yeah.
when you judge that, I think that is better, that is worse, then you can easily, like you say, obviously realize that
Mhm.
you're in a place of judgment. And it is okay, guys, that we don't expect you to rip off all the
Yeah.
judgment of your life in one day.
No, that would be very
No,
unrealistic.
it is just a
No.
place here to just share and
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
acknowledgement and
Yeah.
tools and questions so we can raise in our awareness and healing in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said, the negative charge, the question we can ask ourselves, what would be the next manifestation or trait of the ego?
So we talked about judgment, better and then better off. It's such a core, right? So if I say comparison is still the same, um, yeah, well, identification with something, with a trait.
Mm.
Like I am a good girl, which one of my least favorite labels. If you want to really insult me, call me a good girl. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna take it personally, or maybe I will. We don't know because I still got an ego. Never know which day is that. Good girl. Okay, labeling. I
Labeling.
So if I'm a good girl, obviously, I mean, I can't be maybe bitchy or like be like, no, I don't want to do it, or get upset. Maybe good girls never get upset. So I'm stuck with that.
Mm.
Image. There's an image
Mm.
that I'm a good
Great.
girl.
Mm-hmm.
A nice is another one. With the going with the mask. He's a nice guy. Nice guy. So it's like it has so many attributes. It comes with a persona. So nice guys, they don't lie. Nice guys, they don't cheat. Nice guys, which in the reality is there is not such thing as nice. Like there's no. We are so complex and paradoxical human beings with two polarities, negative and positive, for every single trait that is impossible to pretend to
Abroad.
and usually, of course, usually, I mean, it can also be a bad guy. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be positive because some people get valued in, the bad boy. Yeah, there you go. I'm a bad boy. Well, maybe you ain't so bad. Like nice, I don't know why I said ain't. So sorry.
I
Let's
love it. Go.
like, why am I sounding? Like I come from the hood, you know. It's so
We're all
funny.
from the food, guys.
It
Spiritual.
just sounded better with that attitude. Oh, that's so funny. So imagine if I need to be a nice guy, I cannot, if I'm a nice guy or a nice girl, because the same, I have to repress usually my negatives because like doesn't fit. Just as if I'm a bad guy or a bad boy, I can't really show that I'm compassionate and that it's kind or like attentive.
It
So I'm
blocks
gonna
you,
repress
limits you.
such a fakeness in the sense that we are no not we are the sum of all our parts and beyond anyway, the persona.
Mhm.
So pretending that we are such a characteristics or putting some social masks on, total ego, very far from who we truly are on all levels, good and bad. This is where we don't call like, I'm a light being. That's what I also stopped to say I'm a light being. Definitely, if it's just light being you think I am, you don't know me. I don't know me. Okay, at a level of Unitarian consciousness, I can say it's true. But on planet Earth, where I have a body and I have a person, like a person, of course I have negative traits. What do you mean? Are we delusional here? It's so then the question is, in this labeling, what parts of ourselves are or of our true selves are we repressing or just missing? What's the cost of holding that label
Mhm.
and pretending it's true, by the way, because I don't know.
I love this. I love this so much, Miruna. And so I love that labeling, identification, I self identifying with those labels or this persona. I love it. I love it. This is very anchored. And I would say this is a challenging one because if people haven't experienced the outer perspective out of this physical possibilities, the spiritual realm, what's left for you is your identity is this I am this, I am that, I am this persona, I am that, I'm the daughter of this one, I am the sister of this person, I am that. You identify in how you position yourself into this world. I remember I was listening to this podcast when I started my personal growth. It's called a mindset mentor, thus my name. I got influenced, not influenced, inspired to. I really love this podcast because it was like 20 minutes episodes where one day we'll
Nice.
be able to do that, but we love so much to talk and have so much to cover. And one of the things he was saying, the guy, was that you could decide the next day to just be a total new person.
Yeah.
Nothing stops you to be Miruna, da 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 da, passions,
Yeah.
da 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 da, likes, da 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 da, or this person. The next day, you could literally throw that out the window and become completely bad girl. I don't know how to do the accent here, or completely change your personality one day or another.
Yeah.
Because this is the freedom of will that we're having. We have the choice at every second of our life to do,
Yes.
act, think, be whatever you want, right? So when he said that, it really was a nice example to showcases you that nothing obliges you to be by the frame and identify or label yourself, especially what's like you said, Miruna, when it doesn't represent your authenticity, when it doesn't help you embrace your whole spectrum or get to learn yourself.
Yeah.
There is a cost to that. So there's a lot of labeling because it comforts people. Oh, I know who I am. I'm hard-headed. I am stubborn. I know my stuff. I am hard.
Mm-hmm.
I am not all the qualities you can say. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna push it through emotions too. Oh, I'm always sad, or I'm always joyful, or I am that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I grew into my personal growth, I stopped using the word I am because subconsciously you attach yourself with this
Mm-hmm.
identity of labeling. So now
Yes.
instead I try to use I feel. It's not always perfect, like I said, because you've got to understand everything is ever evolving. evolving, ever changing, growing. Everything is fluctuating in life. The waves fluctuate, right? Air,
Mm.
elements, the stock market,
No, especially
everything
the stock market.
fluctuates. Exactly. So your being, your personality, quote unquote, that you are on earth
Yeah.
fluctuates too. You grow, you
Yes.
change.
And it's
Um,
so beautiful what you say. It whatever fluctuates, it just demonstrates that you are none of that. You were the experimenter of all that. Because when you say I feel, well, yeah, you feel sad now, but let me call you in 5 minutes. Maybe you're like, I'm so joyful. There's
exactly.
no point in really. So who's the experimenter behind? That's a question, for example, that really helps me. And many people get out of the ego, like, or just
Mm,
observe the ego. Who's the experimenter of that emotion, or who's the thinker of that label, or
mm.
who's the being that is beyond? Because even spiritual being, I had to let go of spiritual being. Like, I'm no, no, because again, it's just a label. If I
Yeah,
say I'm a spiritual being, what does it mean? Again, all sorts of stuff,
so
can come out of it.
tricky.
So if you ask yourself, so who is experimenting these states and ideas, automatically you get freed, right? You're like, oh, so if I'm none of those, but I am, then you can just say I am, and then full stop, no labeling.
Wow.
Just really connect. You just got yourself free. I don't know for how many seconds or minutes. That depends on everybody on the next moment, right? At every point. Did it ever happen to you to be afraid that you're gonna get lost in your ego and cannot get yourself back?
Get yourself
Did you
back.
live that fear
I
of
live it
getting, like, let's say,
over
falling back
like that,
asleep and then
not
forgetting that you
become the ego and then you
yeah,
stop
it's
there,
just
right?
fear, all that. Yeah,
I've got a fear similar to that, definitely.
I used to have that. And you know what helped me kind of get over it, or just respond to it whenever it wants to pop back? It takes just 2 seconds of asking the question. Like, no matter how many times you get confused, you're such a good girl, you're a spiritual being, you're whatever, or you're such a horrible person, it doesn't really matter. Who's the experimenter of this thought? Who's observing? And then suddenly, just in a snap, you're back, awakened again, fully aware of these plays. And so
Like,
you can never really lose yourself.
exactly. I love
Not
this so much
really.
because you said a keyword here where it doesn't take much. Time is an illusion. I know maybe one day we'll talk more about that, but it doesn't take as long as we think it is. Our mind makes us think that everything takes a long time. It's hard to get out of it. Dark.
Yeah,
It's hard to get out of a dark space mind or dark emotions whatsoever. And
yeah.
doesn't take. It's very magical. And when you learn the true power within, it's all within. You see how and powerful we actually are, especially when we use the resources of the unity consciousness and God specifically. But I want to finish up with this manifestation by saying that like you label yourself, it doesn't serve you because you're in pain. So the more you identify in a label, the more you will experience pain because, like you said, Miruna, it limits you. You're in a box label. So it stops you from experimenting out of this box, learning to explore what needs to be explored for you to actually discover what is the lesson behind this experimentation I'm having and this
Mhm.
experience and this pain. When you are stopping yourself through a label, not only you will be in pain, but it will limit your mindset, limit your being, limit your perspective, limit your beliefs of what you can possibly and how can you get out of this. So it doesn't serve for my personal experience. I've labeled myself for so long. I was proudly outgoing, social,
Mhm.
multitasker, late person, not punctual, like all those type of things. And then people would say, well, Macy, it's not prideful, but there is a pride when you label yourself. in the ego ways. There's a pride to like, I am like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a
Yeah.
goodness. We're talking about judgment. I am like that, and I like that I am like that. It's good for me, you know, but it's gonna limit you over the time. And only in the right good timing, you might realize that it will give you pain and not actually serve you in your highest self. So I wanted to say that.
I love that so much. I love that. And if you come to think of it, either if we are convinced, which both are an illusion, that you are, for example, punctual or you're not punctual. Let's say you think you're not punctual because you think that. So that means that you're just saying you cannot be
Yeah,
punctual.
yeah,
Why
and
would the
yeah.
other side of the spectrum could actually, or again, I am a good mother. I'm a good mother. So I mean, I cannot. I'm telling you, I cannot scream at that. Suddenly, I'm like, I have to deny the bad. And the reality is that the world is not just black and white. There are polarities, but then we rarely get to neutralize and truly just be spirit, which
Mhm.
has no problem with you being on a spectrum of feeling anger, being
You're right.
late, being punctual, doing it's as if
It's one or the other. Yeah, it's so.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
see
like
what
the
you mean.
whole rainbow. There's a whole
Judge, yeah, the
spectrum,
judgment.
and isn't it so beautiful to just say, okay, if I've experimented in this lifetime lateness so many times, or in my case, used to be it used to be spiritual person or good, again, a good like not a kind but a good girl or a good woman, and that would really limit me, that I act in a certain way. I have to
Mhm.
repress my anger because spiritual people don't get angry. Whoever that said, there's some, I don't believe that, by the way, anymore anyway. And so then I'm like, oh my God, just free yourself and others to just have experiences on the spectrum of polarity, all while understanding it is just an experience. And yes, we have preferences. Like, seriously, I am a kind being, so my tendency is to be kind, but that doesn't mean I have to be in a good girl box. Like, for me, it's different. Being kind and being good is not, or being nice. It's because one has a mask and the other one is just my nature. So, but that doesn't mean I don't get angry. That doesn't mean I am not fiery or that I can't judge, which I do because my mental is very judgy, which I think everybody's mental is, you know. So just free yourself and stop running away from something and just sticking to what you think it's
You're holding
better,
on.
because that's how we live in attachment.
Yeah.
So, and whatever that is, we are in prison, right? So can we just let it go? The ego is not bad in itself. It's just the spectrum of experience of attaching yourself to what you see. You're confusing yourself that this is who I am, this is who I am, and none of it is who you are, but you're experiencing them. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't deny them. I've just experienced anger. Okay, well, that was exhausting. Does that make me an angry person? I'm probably an angry person. You don't have to label yourself or others.
Yeah.
Let's give ourselves a chance to live freely and embrace the egos, not confuse ourselves with them, but just understand why they exist so that we experience different variations of polarity.
Different variations. Let it experience it. It serves a purpose, and we're definitely gonna touch base with that. I love this. The time is flying, girl, and I feel like we there's so much. There's like I think I'm always thinking of two other manifestations of the ego that I would love to talk about, and that would be for our next episode, if you don't mind.
I
So we can,
don't. Are you gonna remember them? You want to name them or you want to
yeah,
keep them a
we'll take
surprise?
notes. No, we'll take notes.
Okay, we'll take
Gonna have
notes.
to
Okay,
stay
good.
tuned to see the next ones,
Yes,
guys. But
yes.
I loved
Can't wait.
everything. It was such a beautiful. I loved how we were able to share it in a blissful way, but I hope for you guys clear way as well to understand exactly how can I use what I've learned right now, what I've listened,
Yeah,
how can I actually use it in the
yeah,
practicality way, the practicality
yeah,
of your everyday life. Ego gets manifested in many ways. It is omnipresent. She said it. It serves a purpose. There's an experience behind it. It's like she said, we're not saying ignore it and not acknowledge it, but it serves a purpose. So we cannot wait to speak with you with other manifestations of the ego on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, dear Macy. I can't wait. Now I'm curious
Oh, yes.
about the two other ones.
Many blessings. See you next episode, guys.
Blessings, everyone.